All right, you guys, so we're going to continue our videos on digestive health by talking about bloating and constipation today. So if you're eating, I don't recommend you watch this video because we are going to be talking about your bowels and your bowel movements and why it happens and why most people get bloating and constipation. I think a lot of you in here have expressed to me at some point or another in some conversation that you often find yourself bloated or having constipation issues. I have dealt with a lot of constipation, even I remember as a teenager, always constipated. Even it seemed like it got worse as I had multiple surgeries after I had my kids. I was always constipated. After I had my big surgery to remove my tumor, still had stomach issues. And it wasn't until probably about 4 years ago when I really started learning more about balancing bacteria in your gut and learning more about how to track food and paying attention to what food I eat, drinking enough water, was then when I really started to try and get my constipation back on track, my bowel movements back on track. And I still struggle with bloating, but that's because I eat foods that I shouldn't. And I'm going to explain that to you in a minute. So let's talk about bloating first. So there's different reasons that you might have bloating. And one of them could be food intolerance. Maybe you're just eating things that are not sitting well with your stomach. And probably for most of you, that's what's happening. For me, as an example, and for my son, gluten. We have a gluten intolerance. For him, it's a lot worse. But he would get super bloated when he would eat bread. And for me as well. And I didn't realize at the time, this was years ago, that what was causing my bloating was gluten. For you, it might be dairy. There are a lot of people nowadays who have a dairy intolerance. And so they'll get really bad gas and bloating and stomach pain from dairy. Some people can't handle raw vegetables. And it seems like for me as well, I can't handle eating raw broccoli or cauliflower or asparagus. Like that stuff has to be cooked really well, or I will find myself bloated. I've also found that I can't do beans. Certain ones, and they have to be rinsed. I have discovered if I get them out of a can, I have to rinse them, which you're supposed to do anyways. But there have been times where I don't rinse them and I eat them, and no, all bad. What else? Grains can also cause bloating. I can't have regular white rice. I can have brown rice. It doesn't bug me, and it has to be organic. There's so many things. Apples bug my stomach, and it has to be organic apples. Like, this is why I tell you guys to keep a food log of what you eat. So that way, if you do experience bloating, you can go back, and it usually happens probably anywhere from like 30 minutes to a few hours. And you'll have to go back and look at your food log and be like, okay, what did I eat that could have potentially caused bloating? And start eliminating that from your diet and see if your bloating gets better, and then add it back into your diet and then see if it happens again. That's one good way to discover whether or not food is causing you to bloat or not. Another thing is it could be a bacterial imbalance. That was a big one for me. When I first started drinking Shakeology, it was fine. But then all of a sudden I started to get really bad bloating after drinking Shakeology, and I couldn't understand why. I thought maybe it was too much fiber, not enough water. And that could have been it as well. But even when I was drinking enough water, I would get such bad cramping. And then we realized it was the whey. I couldn't have whey. So I went to the vegan formula, but I was still bloating on that as well. It wasn't until this past year that Jessica told me that she says it's probably because you have a bacterial imbalance in your gut, and the bad bacteria is dying off, and Shakeology is helping to balance out your gut, the bacteria in your gut, and so you're having this transition, which could be causing some bloating. And so I started adding a probiotic first thing in the morning, and then I would have Shakeology later on. No bloating. My bloating finally stopped. So that's just kind of, it just sometimes you kind of have to play with things to figure out why you're having bloating. Another thing too is maybe you're constipated, and we'll talk more about constipation in a minute, but being constipated and being so full of just excess waste is going to cause some bloating as well. So what can you do to help prevent bloating? Well, one of them is, have a food log. So that you know what it is that's causing it. It could be artificial. I have like a whole list right here I'm going to read off to you of different causes of stomach bloating. So eating too fast could be another one. Eating too much could be another reason. Eating fatty foods. Again, foods that are high in fiber. Not drinking enough water if you're lactose intolerant. If you have an inflammatory bowel disease like ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, celiac disease. Let's see. We talked about foods that can cause. So another thing that I have found to help counteract bloating is if any of you use essential oils. Digestive from doTERRA is amazing. I use it for me and for my kids because my daughter is lactose intolerant, and every now and then she can have ice cream and it doesn't bother her, but every now and then when she has too much ice cream, her stomach kills her. And if I just drop one drop of Digestive into her belly button and rub it around, within about 10 to 15 minutes or so, she's fine. So if you have any of that laying around, or if you know a doTERRA consultant, it'd be best to get some Digestive oil and just keep it on hand if you do struggle with bloating. But the best thing that I could recommend is really try and figure out why you're bloating, and then if it's food related, just stop eating that food. Easier said than done, I know. But bloating is such an uncomfortable feeling. And drink more water. And so we're going to start talking about constipation. Constipation is huge. Like, a lot of people suffer from constipation. And I was reading that your colon was designed to hold a few pounds of excess waste. But when a person gets constipated, your large intestine can be holding up to anywhere from 10 to 20 pounds of waste. And that's pretty gross if you think about it like that. That's pretty nasty. That's a lot of weight for your intestines to be holding. And you got to think about, if it's holding that much weight, like, your intestines was designed to expand to a certain amount. Like, your intestines is long, right? It's long, so it can hold quite a bit. But then you also, now if you're not going to the bathroom on a normal basis, and we'll talk about what is normal, it's going to start to expand. And it can only expand so much. And if it expands more, that's when you start getting more of toxins kind of going back into the bloodstream and recirculating throughout your body, and it's going to start causing issues elsewhere. And we'll talk about more of that. But so what could be some reasons for constipation? There could be a lot of reasons for constipation. One is stress. And for me, that's huge. When I started learning more about stress and the causes that stress can have on your body, constipation is a huge one. And travel. I would find that when I travel, or if I'm not, like even if I just spend one night away from home, it's put so much stress on me. I get so stressed out that I get constipated, and it takes a couple of days for me to get back on track. So stress, travel, changes in the way that you eat, the different foods that you're eating, especially when you're traveling. We don't get our normal routine in. And so as soon as we make those changes, our body's trying to like catch up with these changes that we're doing. Maybe you're not going to the bathroom when you have the urge to. Maybe when you work and you don't have the opportunity to use the restroom, and so you hold it. If you keep doing that, eventually your body is going to stop sending you that urge. And I actually had that happen because I was so constipated and I wouldn't go when my body was telling me, that I had to like try and reteach my body. And I learned that I had to do it through massaging my intestines gently. You would have to lay down and start from your right side and massage all the way up and around and to the left. And so I would just gently massage my large intestine all the way around until I would finally get that urge to go. And it took a few times, but you would have to do it first thing in the morning, and you just lay down and you just massage until you feel this urge to go. And sometimes it took a little while before my body realized, okay, you need to use the restroom. But someone told me about that is like, if you just lay down, if your body never sends you the signal to go because you're so constipated and you're never going when you're supposed to, lay down, massage from right to left, and it kind of gets things moving again. Because over time, your intestines kind of is like a wave. It does this wave-like thing to help push things through. Eventually it'll stop doing that if you're not going to the bathroom when your body tells you to. So you have to help massage and create that movement, and then you'll notice you'll start to go. So try that. If you're at the point where you're so constipated that you're not getting that signal anymore to go, lay down and massage. Medication could be another one. If you're taking medication, blood pressure medication, I forget what other medication for like indigestion, antacid medication, that could also cause constipation too. If you have irritable bowel syndrome or an inflammatory bowel disease, could also cause constipation. Not drinking enough water obviously is going to do that as well. And if you're overeating, which I'm also guilty of this, is where you just eat and eat and eat until you feel like you are full up to here. And if you continuously do that, it's so hard on your digestive system that you will become constipated at some point. So you want to focus more on chewing your food well, eating smaller meals and stopping before you get overly full, so that way your body can process it like it should be able to, and not overstuff yourself and slow down your digestive system. So what can you do to help with constipation? One, drink your water, right? And track your water. You might think that you are drinking enough water when really you're not. So this is why I really encourage you to track it. Two, probiotics. A lot of your constipation and bloating issues can be from a lack of balance in your gut. And you will probably start to see a trend here. Even next month, we're going to be starting to talk about hormonal imbalance. And your gut health and the balance of bacteria in your gut is also going to come into play with hormonal balance. It also has has a role in your immune system. So if you have a low immune system and you find yourself getting sick often, it could be also because you have an imbalance in your bacteria. So get some probiotics. A few of you have asked me about what probiotics I use, and I sent you the link. You should have it in the group. If you don't, let me know. But start taking some probiotics that will help to get your gut back and balanced. Fruits and vegetables, make sure you're eating enough high fiber foods. Make sure that you're exercising. Get some, even if it's going for a walk for 15 to 30 minutes, that will help it will help to get things moving. Even these doctors say that if you have a little one, a baby who is constipated or a toddler, they say just to get their legs and lay them on their back and just kind of like move their legs back and forth. And that kind of stimulates your intestines to get things moving. And so that's the same with us adults. If you're not moving enough and exercising, go out, do a light jog, walk, something to try and get things moving in there, and it will help to relieve that constipation. Don't overeat. And going back to the probiotics and getting good bacteria, you want to get different strains of bacteria into your system. So while taking a probiotic is great, you also want to get your probiotics in a different way. So eating fermented foods is going to help to get different strains of bacteria into your digestive system. So I get sauerkraut that's homemade. It's really good. They do sell sauerkraut now in stores. Kefir, kimchi, anything that's fermented is really yummy, and it's a great way to help with your digestive system. Shakeology is another one for those of you who are drinking Shakeology. Keep drinking it. It's got so many different nutrients in there that is going to help with your digestive system. It's got probiotics and prebiotics, so that's another way that I get good bacteria into my digestive system is with Shakeology. It's also going to give you fiber. And I notice if I don't drink my Shakeology, especially when I'm gone on the weekends to tournaments and I don't bring it with me, I feel like my digestive system slows way down until I get back on track with Shakeology. Then I feel like my system, I'm not as constipated anymore. So Shakeology is a huge help for those of you who are drinking it. Keep drinking it, because you will notice a difference when you stop. You feel like your digestive system slows down a little bit. So anyways, those are just some tips about bloating and constipation. If there's something that I didn't cover and that you guys maybe have some issues with and you have questions about, let me know. I wanted to read this to you really quick, some side effects of constipation. So you might think that constipation is just makes you feel miserable and full and bloated, but you're actually going to have other side effects because of constipation. One is fatigue. Two is weight gain. You can have really bad breakouts, and a lot of this is because of toxicity. So you have waste. You have all this waste sitting in your digestive system, right? And it's not going anywhere. So what's happening is, instead of getting released and flushed, some toxins are going to start recirculating throughout your body and end up in your bloodstream, and you're going to start feeling tired. You're going to get some weight gain, obviously, because you're holding on to excess waste. Breakouts, because now you have toxins floating around. They're trying to come out somehow, right? And they're going to come out through our skin by having bad breakouts. And also hormones. Excess estrogen is actually eliminated through our waste. But if we're not eliminating that waste, right, and we get constipated, it's now we have excess estrogen recirculating through our body. Excess estrogen is also the cause of certain breast cancers, certain other female reproductive system issues. Like, that is huge. Another thing too, I learned is if your liver is not detoxifying things properly, and your liver can't help to detox and get rid of those toxins, again, you're going to have toxins floating around in your bloodstream, and it can't filter it out. So if your liver is sluggish and then you have constipation issues, that's going to lead to all kinds of different other health issues, because you just have toxins just floating around in your body, landing in different areas, causing havoc. And another thing could be brittle nails, thinning hair, poor immune system, estrogen dominance, which I just talked about. And I'm going to read this to you, so this one kind of explains it a little better. Constipation can inhibit the excretion of unwanted estrogen from the body, and it promotes reabsorption. we are exposed to a lot of environmental sources of estrogen through toxins such as plastics, medications, hormones, and animal proteins that we consume. This means that most people have excess estrogen coming into the body that needs to be excreted each day. If we are constipated, these excess estrogens can be reabsorbed in the colon and cause elevated estrogen levels, a condition also associated with allergies, weight gain, and fatigue. So there you go. That kind of explains it pretty well. Also, anxiety and depression. Mood and anxiety disorders have long been scientific. Let's see. Mood and anxiety disorders, along with constipation, have long been scientific bedfellows with constipation and other gastrointestinal disorders. While constipation is often thought to be the symptom, recent neuroscientific research has begun to show that the importance of intestinal flora, which is bacteria, in the development of brain symptoms. So there's even more reason you might be feeling low, is that if you can't go to the loo, and it's these kind of side effects of constipation that people aren't often aware of. So anxiety and depression, if you suffer with anxiety and depression and you're constipated, that might be one of your reasons why. So just something to think about. It's amazing how just being constipated and holding on to all of that waste, how it affects your body. So, all right, so I'm done with that. So if you guys have any questions about that, or you need help with coming up with some ideas on how to eliminate bloating or constipation, or you need help understanding why you're bloated or constipation, just let me know. You can private message me. I know it's a topic that not everyone is comfortable talking about, but with my son and all of his intestinal issues, I laugh and tell people I'm like the poop queen, because I've learned all about what is normal, what is not normal, and yeah. So one thing I didn't cover is what is a normal, how many bowel movements per day should you be having? You should be having at least one per day. If you go a couple of days, 2 or 3 days, you got to think about how much you're eating, but then versus how much is leaving. And if you're going 2 days or more without getting rid of that excess waste, imagine how much stress you're putting on your large intestine. And how much over time your large intestine has to play catch up and your body has to play catch up. So make sure you're going at least once a day, would be kind of a good rule of thumb to follow. So, all right, I'm done. I hope you guys have a great Monday. I hope you guys have a great week. And again, if you guys have any questions at all, please let me know, and I'll talk to you guys later.